Hi, my name is Mark Gernot. I'm a monetary economist. In this video, I want to talk about the current negotiations of Russia, Ukraine, US, and what it means to set a baseline. A baseline is something that you have in both economic science and medical science. Analogously, if your baseline for blood pressure, let's say, is 120/80, that's a reasonable baseline based on statistics and probability and long-term studies. Now, if you say your baseline, for example, on blood pressure, 200/120, that's an incorrect baseline. And if you say this is the norm, this is the average everybody should be shooting for, the biological unit will go sideways. So my claim here in this video is that the baseline that they're setting for negotiations is totally off. It's like having a baseline of blood pressure at 200/120 or 140, just something totally sideways. And the world has to recognize this because right now we're being sold a bill of goods, sold a package of things that is morally and ethically and geopolitically, economically incorrect. The incorrect idea is that the baseline is we should start the negotiations somewhere with Russia. The negotiations should start as a baseline according to international law, UN resolutions, and general morality and what has been signed on a piece of paper. We should set it at Russia, go home. First, before you even begin talking and discussing with the Tsar of Russia, you say, remove from Crimea, remove from Donbass. Remove all acts of aggression. That is the baseline. Are we agreed? Because that's what international law says. That's what the U.S., word and promise and honor is. And that's the honor of the U.S. signing a document on paper. That's what other countries like the UK and even Russia had signed. So, if, a man is only as good as a word. And, a country represents a man in the Platonic sense. So if we sign this, if the international court, UN resolution, shouldn't the baseline be Russia go home, Russia get out of Crimea, Russia get out of Ukraine, and then we'll talk. And the discussion is really like something like how much reparations should Russia pay? Should Russia completely remove all the nuclear arsenal or keep a few conventional weapons allowed? Should they have a Japanese, like Japan had after WW2, a security force of 100,000 troops only, more like a internal police force? Maybe that should be, max internal police force over all the geographical location of Russia. Or should it be divided into 10 countries or 20 countries? Okay, this is what I think we should negotiate with. But the baseline, just like a blood pressure analogy, has to be, or in economic science, you have to set a baseline in before you run an econometric or statistical study. If you don't know the baseline, we are being sold a baseline that is so far towards the pro-Moscow alignment that when people shave a little bit off, then they think they're making some progress. That is untrue. Objectivity is the essence of intelligence, and you meditate on this idea. Now, one of the things I like to bring up in relationships, people are like, especially with women, they meet a guy that they saw or dated maybe, 5 years before, and the guy meets him and says, I'm better now. Let me tell you, any guy that says, I'm better now is not better, okay? Or any relationship, it could be a guy or a girl, doesn't matter the gender or whatever. When anybody tells you, I'm better now, they're not better. And that's the whole idea behind the Tsar of Russia. And if you notice, I don't mention his name or even the Washington guy because I don't want, not that I'm overly superstitious, I don't want to give notoriety because whatever we do echoes to eternity. And, I don't want that pronunciation to be echoed to eternity. I'd rather have things like, Mother Teresa, St. Thomas Aquinas, or Kempis echo to eternity, but not those names. So when the Tsar of Russia is, trying to put on this cloak like he's a reasonable guy, I'm better now, let's see, or stop this, this nonsense of dying, etc. That obviously is clearly wolf in sheep's clothing. And if you don't see it like it is, the world is going to learn a hard lesson because right now it looks like North Korea is developing a program, let's say related to uranium and rockets. And that will be spread and proliferated through the Axis powers, whether it be Iran, North Korea, China, and Moscow. So if you're going to be embracing that wolf, you're the sheep, And I believe that maybe the Washington allies are the sheep. Washington allies in the sense, not the countries, but the people close to the leader of the sheep in Washington, that is a very dangerous precedent because they don't understand the concept of baseline. They've never studied, you know, one thing I can say, I'm a data scientist and I've studied like a little bit hard science and mathematics. And, I don't always excel in languages. I even mispronounce things in English, and I definitely mispronounce things in Polish and make grammatical mistakes. But I am very good with certain logical thinking, such as chess and mathematics and baselines and science. And none of the people around him, whether it be these, defense secretary, internal secretary, advisors, and, TC, I'm not even going to mention the names, they don't have any discipline in these hard sciences, and they don't realize to think objectively about things like where the starting point should be and needs to be. And they can't project this into a geopolitical idea. So there's been many conversations between the guy in Washington and the guy in Moscow, and that's admitted by the guy in Washington. And that's a reasonably bad precedent because he hasn't said clearly to the world, this is what I see as right and just for all people. Russia, go home. And then we're going to start from there. That's a tough guy. That's a good negotiator. What we see is somebody caving, somebody weak, somebody afraid of bad publicity, somebody afraid of not having a win. And for the world, as I say, I don't believe in leaders. I'm a hippie living quasi off the grid. Who knows what I do? But maybe in terms of leadership to make the world a better place, we should look towards people who have these ideals at the forefront of their mind when talking about how do we progress in negotiations and talks with despotic leaders. So I'll leave it at that. My name is Mark Baronat. I'm a monetary economist. Have a great day. Thank you very much.